Welcome. In this section, we would be focusing on the Yojana updates, and this mainly talks about the urban infrastructure. So, urban galaxies is a term which is used to explain metropolitan cities, towns, all appearing like clusters, interconnected and able to have scalability among themselves. So, we call this as urban galaxies, and restructuring of these galaxies, which means the changes in the lifestyle, the resources, and the land use is important. Now, again, there are multinodal growth centers which are observed, and planning according to that is important. So, regionally connected lifestyle and connecting local people is important. Also expanding the mega cities, bringing in better transportation, better industrial clusters, multi-storied complex, vertical gardens, agglomerations with better banking centers, better financial centers are some of the important aspects. Another important term is miniaturization of cities, where we are talking about making the cities walkable. When I say making a city walkable, it means that all the livelihood requirements should be fulfilled within half an hour of walk, and that is preferred in most of the cities which have population of around 1 lakh, which are termed as growth centers, and they small towns now become magnets, so they are actually attracting the people as a reason that the centers are walkable cities. The basic amenities can be fulfilled by simple proximity among the regions. And then you have Shawmaker's work, which talks about producing goods and services and collaborating with others to work on a kind of inborn ethnocentric tendencies of the urban centers. Now, for indigenous development, Gandhiji's Charkha is an important aspect. If we talk about the redevelopment project, Central Vista is a unique example. Now, Central Vista was designed by Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Baker, and it was one of the centers for British Raj. After independence, the Imperial Council became the center for parliament, and Viceroy's house became the Rashtrapati Bhavan. India Gate is one of the national monuments. Then you have the walkways. The jamun trees have been preserved while the redevelopment has occurred, and north-south blocks are an important example of the government ministries. Also, common secretariat would be completed first, and then segment-wise the development would take place. So this Central Vista accommodates various stakeholders, and experts have come in with the development of the flora in those regions, bringing in new species with the existing species and developing this as a brownfield site, which is one of the major public spaces with diverse requirements. So Kartavya Path is one of those, and this whole project is a challenge because from a concept stage to the finalization stage, it requires approval from various agencies, and two approvals cannot be submitted simultaneously. So approvals have to be done one by one. Kartavya Path, as I said, is one of the major developments of this Central Vista project. This is the Rajpath road, and therefore this has been developed in a new way with green spaces, CCTVs, sitting stone benches, granite lanes, and refurbished landscape. Lawns have been refurbished. There have been more aerators and filtration tanks which have been added to ensure clean water supply. Public amenities have been constructed, and the idea is to maintain the art and aesthetics of this region. The next is, with the historical development, we have seen not just this, but the craft, the culture, the archaeological survey of India has also taken step in the preservation of the heritage, and there have been various improvements. For example, the culture centered around Sufism and Qawwali have gained importance. They have been reconstructed. The traditional building materials like stone, bamboo, timber have been reused in most of the designs. Humayun's tomb and its restoration is important. This has been declared as a World Heritage Site, and within this declaration, there has been a huge number of increase in the visitors. It has been the project has been given to Aga Khan Trust for Culture, And then there has been urban renewal. The precursor for it is Taj Mahal, and the building has actually gone through various inappropriate conservation work over the years, and now there has to be a streamlined development. Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan is another project which aims to bring differentially abled people in the mainstream when we are talking about the universal design of the architecture. So making sure there is flexibility, simplicity, good information, tolerance for errors, quality of usage, and adequate size and space is important. Then also focusing on the implications, how a systematic approach can be devised, what is the built environment accessibility. So the ISO certification, building construction accessibility and usage, makes this again a unique platform. Now when we are talking about designing universal public designs, this should be accessible with well-lit corridors. There should be tactile flooring for visually impaired, double height rail handrails for support, and wide corridors, obstruction free paths for wheelchair movement. So all these are some of the things which have to be taken into account under Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan. Then when we talk about architecture, wide spectrum health and encompassing the wholesome health, which is the physical, mental, social well-being of an individual, has been taken into account. So bicycle lanes, no car zones, green spaces are some of the examples for the same. Recently one of the conferences were laid down in Lucknow, and that talked about the basis for city planning, city building, and proper sanitation. And this was back in 1914, but still based on this lines, there have been huge developments. If we go back to the cities of London and Paris, we have seen that they face great fires and great stinks, and that is mainly dealing with the health, hygiene, and disease problems in those areas. So with the BSI building code 2006 and its subcodes like SP41, there are various functional requirements for the cities, for the buildings. The lighting code is given, the architecture and the guidelines for those. Now the next important topic for discussion is G20. Now G20 is the group of 20 nations, which is 19 nations plus European Union. So it accounts for nearly 85% of the global GDP, 75% of the trade, and two-thirds of the world population. Economic cooperation and collective action is important. So India has become the presidency. India would be holding the presidency for next 1 year, and this would be a very unique vision for India. Now the mantra is one India, one earth, one family, and one future, and that's for the welfare of all the members. Now premium forum for international economic cooperation has been given. The head of the states have come together. Now two major agencies under it, one is the Sherpa and the other one is the finance track. Now Sherpas are important because they negotiate the course of years and the various agendas for various summits and coordinate how these would go on. Now this group does not have a permanent secretariat. The presidency is supported by a trioca and the incoming presidency. So the trioca for India's presidency is Indonesia, India, and Brazil. The next is very important topic, which is Brideshwar temple in Thanjore, and this is one of the classic marvels of Chola period. And there is a Nandi which is built out of a single stone. It is the second largest Nandi in India. The Shiva temple is again one of the largest Shivlings in the country, and it has been recognized by UNESCO. Now this temple, the dimensions of this temple have been given, and three kingdoms, mainly the Chola, Vijayanagar, and Maratha kings, have seen a history. The entrance gateway has been built during the Maratha period, and it is made up of stucco images. Similarly, there are Gopurams which have been built. 60 meter from here is the second Gopuram, which is known as the Raja Ranjan Thiruvasal. There is the stone base for this Gopuram, which is from the Puranas, and therefore it has a lot of aesthetic aspects. There are deities around in 8 direction, and therefore they are known as the Ashtadi Palka. The Ganesh and the temple Yagyasalai is present. The shrine of Devi Parvati is seen on the northern side of the main campus, and then there are the sanctum sanctorum, which is the main center, two beams on the east and the west, and then the diagonal beam in the corner. There is a very giant shivling, and fresco paintings are seen during the time of Rajaraja. There are second story above the ling is empty with hollow space, which is up to the height of Viman, and this is a kind of formless shape, or the formless shiv, which could be explained. The architecture is grand. It has two important aspects: the earth mandap, which is a smaller space with long columns, and the next is antaral, which is a fleet of stairs on the north and the south. Then we have the Nandi pavilion, which is a huge monolithic piece. As we said, this was during the Chola period. So arts and aesthetics during this time is important. The various forms of shiv is important. So Nataraj, Ardhanarishwar, Kala Samhar are some of the examples. The next is the brutalist architecture. Now, brutalist architecture is a unique form of architecture which appeared in Britain, and then through the post-war reconstruction period, it went on. So, Betten said that this means gross cement or raw concrete, and this is used to describe the brutalistic architecture. So, it has very specific structures of houses for the poor and the middle class, and then there is natural virtue of using minimal materials and bare structures to construct. And this is a very new direction where we are taking the new architectural designs. Then is Statue of Unity, a testimonial to Sardar Patel and his life, built over the location which faces the Sardar Sarovar Dam, and this is on the island of Sadhubet in river Narmada in the Ekta Nagar district, Rajpipala in Gujarat, and the engineers have worked hard to have a tunnel effect of the winds flowing down the river. It can resist the winds up to 220 kilometers per hour. It is within the island, within the river Narmada, on a piece of island. It has 5 zones. Zone 1 is the merizine, or the roof of the memorial garden with a museum. Zone 2 is where the thighs of the statue is. Zone 3 is the viewing gallery. 4 and 5 are not accessible to public, and 4 is maintenance zone, 5 is the head and shoulders. And then this statue has required so much material, the list of which has been given here. The design is earthquake resistant, which is very important. It can handle a shock up to 8 M8, and that's important. If we talk about India, the seismic zoning has been done. 11% of the country falls in a very high risk, 18% in zone 4 and 30% in zone 3. Guwahati, Srinagar are in the zone 5, which is the highest risk zone. Delhi is in zone 4, which is the next one. Now, when we talk about the future resistant buildings for earthquake resistance, thermocol is one of the materials which has been used, or expanded polystyrene as a composite material between the walls, and this has been tested by the National Seismic Testing Facility and Department of Earthquake Engineering at IIT Roorkee, and this would actually be the basis for providing thermal comfort as well as protecting with the earthquakes and bringing in earthquake resistance. What happens is it is extremely lightweight and it reduces the mass, and therefore the earthquake force acting on the building gets diminished, in contrast to the real cement concrete which is used. Now, the technology called as semi-confined unreinforced brick masonry can also solve the problems in earthquake prone areas by building without earthquake prevention building codes, and this technology is architecturally also aesthetic and can be implemented with local manpower. And this is a zone map which talks about the various zones. The zones in the red, as you can see, are the areas which are highly susceptible to earthquake, and then they have the other zones which are demarcated. The one in the blue is the least dangerous of all the zones. So this was about some of the important topics that we have discussed in this lecture. In case you have any questions, any doubts, feel free to post those in the comment. The handouts would be available on Examrace current affairs section, and on Doorstep Tutor the detailed practice material is available as well. Wish you very good luck. Stay tuned. Have a wonderful day ahead.